Welcome to the Scuttlebutt Podcast. There are lots of drinks, there are no rules, and it is a lot of fun. Relax, you are amongst friends.
And we are amongst friends. We are inviting everybody to pull up their chair, pour their glass, and light whatever it is they're smoking on. It is the Scuttlebutt Podcast, and it is the dynamic duo, the parabolic pair, the Three Musketeers, and we are inviting a new guest of honor. Now, we've been a guest of honor over on Jay's podcast a couple times now, but now we are finally had the schedules lined up. We are lucky enough to have him brave enough to test out his sea legs over here. So, Jay, what is going on, man? How are you?
I am good. I gotta be honest. I was playing the new Zelda. It's TOTK. That's all I know it as. Tears of the Kingdom. There it is. Literally up until the minute it was time to come get on this podcast.
Damn it!
I might be addicted again.
Right, you might be playing it off screen right now.
Right.
I have the Switch. I didn't even think about that. I could have just brought it down here and set it on the desk and just been here the whole time.
Yeah, I'm here with you guys. No worries. I'm here with you guys.
Yes, I also have good things about that.
I also have that opinion on that topic we're talking about.
Hell yeah. Well, I love that you were able to put it down for the second. I mean, it's easier to do it with a Switch than it is with the VR. I will have that. True. I'll have everybody know that. So why don't we go ahead and roll into some traditions? Because I think Morpheus and I are already like one step ahead. We've had maybe a whiskey and a half, just a whiskey and a half before we started this. So we're nice and lubed. We're ready to go. But our first tradition here is to introduce what we are drinking on so the audience can also get nice and comfortable as they join us. So Jay, our guest of honor, what are you drinking on over there, bud?
Well, depending on what your state you're in, I'm not sure I can totally give too much away here. But I've got just this simple stevia fake soda stuff. It's a black cherry. And I had some fruity drinkable liquids in the fridge that I just topped this off with. And that's in here
mad
too,
scientist stuff.
So yeah, some chemistry, if you will. So that's what I'm having, and it tastes pretty good. It's not bad. You get that little aftertaste if you know what I'm talking about out there. But
a little earthy, maybe a little earthy aftertaste. Yeah. Okay, I got what you're putting
kind of herbal.
Yeah.
Well, see, we have a little catch-all term for things
substances.
Illicit substances, exactly. And it's our buddy Swim, because our buddy Swim can partake in anything because our buddy Swim isn't a resident of the States or any specific state or any specific country, around the world.
Mind.
Exactly. I love it there. So yeah, if it's our buddy Swim partaking in said liquids, you can always give a little more specific, but we'll keep it casual, we'll keep it comfortable. What about you, Theron? What are you actually drinking on over there?
That's what I like to say. It's all theater anyway. You don't know what's actually in the bottle. You have to prove it. But since we're hanging out here with JayBratt and he's doing the YouTube thing, I brought another bottle of Prime.
There we go.
This is the blue raspberry. It's not sponsored, I swear, but I mean, Logan Paul could sponsor us. We could do a whole. I put like a fuck ton of vodka in this, and it tastes delicious. And so that's what we could do, like Prime cocktails. That could be a whole segment.
I like this.
Flavors are delicious, and there's a wide variety of different things you could mix with them.
If you want to be sponsored by him, you have to fight him. I've heard that's how that goes.
Oh, done.
I could
done
do
and
it.
done.
I could take him.
Done and done. Done and done. Say
Everyone's
less.
Like easy.
What are you talking about? Give us something hard to do here.
Wait, I have to drink again? Damn.
Morpheus, let me go ahead and go to you, I guess, as you're the first one. I'm gonna grab us an ashtray as well so we can smoke. What are you drinking on, bud?
I'm drinking on a Guinness.
That's it?
Right now, yeah.
Just keeping it light.
Yeah, keeping it cool, keeping it light, keeping it
When a Guinness is light, I like that.
It's water, man.
That's what we do.
Water for us.
Very thick water, but it's good.
Nice and creamy.
Honestly, yeah, it's what I use as my hydration. I'm not gonna lie. But I mean,
Go for a run. Guinness.
absolutely.
Have a good lift in the gym. Guinness. It's seriously like I've been drinking more Guinness than water lately. It feels.
And now you're
That way your
hydrated.
Camelback is full of like Guinness.
Yeah,
Oh man, if I threw up on a hike, it'd be black.
So
And not for
foamy.
the-
Oh, it's so foamy.
It's so creamy.
Let's see. What do I got here? I gotta
Just
grab
chug
mine.
this.
We have a poor Perlenbauche German beer. I grabbed it in a Lidl, a local leader, local leader of it. Just a nice Pilsner that we'll be sipping on tonight. I've been really about it though, and especially Pilsners lately, for the same reason that Morpheus is describing, is I get most of my hydration from my beer. So I also have the Guinness over there that is my go-to if I'm actually trying to stay hydrated.
But when we're both here, like we're gonna run out of
We're
Guinness.
just go through the Guinness. Exactly. I didn't
You should
stock
text
up
the
on
wife
it.
and let her know.
That's true. She is.
I'll
You know
text
what?
her.
Text her right now,
I'll
please.
text her.
Thank
Beer
you. Yeah.
run.
She's
Well,
stopping at the Costco already.
yeah, she's already there. Might as well get our month's worth
Oh,
of.
God, come back with a keg of Guinness.
You think I'm kidding? I only have to do it once a month, and then I fill my fridge, both the large fridge and the mini fridge for the studio, full of Guinness, and then we're off to the races. But I think
And we're off.
I think we are off to the races now that we are nice and comfortable. We've approached the studio table, and hopefully the audience is joining us as well in this drink. So let's go ahead and put our guest of honor spotlight on Mr. JayBratt, which, apologies for the email, fat fingered the A from the E. And Theron immediately, as soon as I sent it out, I had just pressed send, and Theron immediately had us a text. Hey,
she's at Costco right now.
it's A, not an E. It's actually Brat, not Brett.
I'm just gonna go by JayBratt from now on.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
like-
it's got a ring to it.
No, it does not.
That'll be the name of your second channel.
Yeah, if you're looking for the second shot, you gotta know the secret.
You know, you have to have your camera flipped. Then everything's mirrored, so it's the exact same show, just mirrored, or like
So
a
it's your-
negative camera.
Yeah, your evil
Hermes.
twin.
Hermes, Costco doesn't have Guinness.
Damn it! All right, we'll deal with it later. We're recording right now. I'll handle that when I need to handle it. No, man. So joking aside, let the people know, for the uninitiated, you know, again, we've guested on yours, been lucky enough to guest on yours, but as the first time guest on ours, who are the people listening to? Give them that little bio. What are you about, Jay? What is all this JayBratt VR? What is all this?
What if my whole life in a sentence, boy? That's a big steep
No
thing.
pressure.
But I
We
am
need it,
just
though.
I'm a dude who loves VR, and I gave up everything for it. I quit working. I just make VR videos. It's all I do now. It's my whole life. And thank God I have an extremely supportive wife because
You
it
sound
wouldn't
like
be
someone,
possible.
You sound like someone Theron found. You a Theron guest?
I am definitely a Theron guest. Theron has been on our podcast a couple times. So I
Hell yeah.
have a YouTube channel, JayBratt. We just hit 40,000 subscribers last week, actually.
Yeet. Shout out to
exciting.
that.
That's awesome.
Congrats, Jay, man.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
We
I'm
also
honestly
have a
amazed that you're not
podcast.
at 100K yet. You need that plaque.
Yeah, for real.
Hey, I appreciate that. Maybe someday. You know, that's a big moment. VR, it's still, for people out there, you've probably heard about VR because of the Scuttlebutt guys, but like it's still growing. You know, it's
Mhm.
not like a normal gaming channel where everyone on the planet games. VR, there's maybe 20 million people out there, maybe
Maybe.
who have a headset.
And
that's optimistic.
exactly. Yeah, that's a little, that's giving it
That's maybe.
that's giving it a
Well,
little
and then
extra bump.
that's just people who own them, not even
Yeah.
active monthly users.
Yeah.
True. I mean, yeah, because out of the three of us, Morpheus, myself, and Theron is obviously the, you know, in deep down the rabbit hole kind of a user, while
Well,
the other.
and since my kid has been born, I've used my headset like twice in the last almost 3 months.
It
Oh
makes it hard.
shit!
Yeah.
That's now that's news. Like that's because the amount of adjustment period now that you're going through, and to know that it's now hitting your VR time is actually kind of scary to know.
Well,
Where's
it's
the
just
time going to be left?
kind of like you alluded to at the beginning, like it's just harder to put that down. You literally
Mhm.
have to like step into a completely separate world, and so it's a lot harder to do that when you have an infant who's screaming
Absolutely.
most of the time.
Oh boy.
As the
You're
pre-show-
selling me
You
on it.
want to do it, but you can't.
Yeah. as Patreon pre-show, got to enjoy those nice little nice little vocals, those Theseus vocals in the beginning. Shout out to Theseus. I can't wait till we have him on the show. We get to talk, like, catch him up to speed of all the shit we were talking about him up to up to the point he's able to drink.
Here's 21 years of shit.
We'll just compress
your
it into
homework.
a compilation. Yeah, well, no, we'll put it all into a compilation form that we'll play in the beginning of the show for the Theseus episode.
I would love to interview and ask, like, PewDiePie's kid in like 15 years. Like, do you
Yeah.
go back and watch your parents' videos, or are you just like, oh my gosh, like, it's so
Yeah, it's everything
embarrassing?
cringe.
Yeah, I feel like, yeah, you would be like, oh, it's just so cringy. Like, I like to pretend that I'm not even related to them. Like,
Well, there's like
'Cause
funny pictures of the dudes from Slayer with their kids, and like the guys from Slayer like making like the the death metal like signs, like sticking their tongues
Yeah,
out,
yeah.
and the kids just look so done with them. And it's like, imagine being embarrassed by your dad, who's like the lead singer for Slayer, like
Yeah.
one of the biggest metal bands of all time.
Yeah, people carve their name into their skin and
You're
shit.
like, Dad, you're so embarrassing.
Yeah. Well, see, that's actually a good segue point for a bunch of questions that I had for you, Jay.
Mhm.
You know, you said you gave up everything, man, like for
Mhm.
VR, you know, and again, we've, done some cursory homework, I guess I will say, on the man, the myth, the legend that is Jay. And there's only so much that I'm sure that I can share publicly here. So what would you share publicly on why you chose like VR? Why did you take the plunge? Why did you put your wife in such an awkward position of having to,
Well, we actually joke that, there's this whole thing about this inequality between male and female pay. So we're doing our part, man.
Yeah, there you
I
go.
quit
There
work.
you go.
I went from making good money to zero money, and then she was making all the money. So we're flipping the script. We're fixing it. But that story, it starts a long time ago. I think it goes all the way back to like the Nintendo 64. And we had Mario 64. My brother and I started playing it. That game was incredible back then.
Is
And
that the one? Was that the one where it's like the different worlds and you jump in and out of the paintings and stuff?
Yep.
Was that 64?
Yep,
Okay.
and
That
that was
something I
like
played then.
it was like the first real foray into 3D gaming, it felt like. And I remember us saying as kids, like, one day we're gonna be inside the game. And I didn't think that would ever happen in our lifetimes. And then all of a sudden it was like, 2012, 2013 is like the first Oculus DK1s are circulating. Google Cardboard is kind of becoming a thing. And I had started actually falling off from gaming. I was a lifetime gamer and I was kind of falling off of it. I was like, maybe I'm just aging out. Maybe I'm not into this anymore. But then I saw that and I was like, I think that is what I'm looking for. That's what I want.
That's
so
the thing.
It was the hook. And so as soon as the PlayStation VR became available, because when VR first started, the headsets were like, the computer headsets were like $800, and the PC had to have it was like another $2,000.
No joke. Yeah.
So you compare that to a PSVR, which was like $500 for the package, and if you had the PS4, you were set. So I was like, okay, as soon as I can get a PSVR, I'm getting that. And man, once I got into that, it was like anyone I could get to come over, anyone who'd never tried. I was getting everyone to try this thing. But I was also working in management at that time. I was working like 60 hours a week. We literally scheduled ourselves as managers 55 hours to start, and we stayed late a lot of days. This was grocery management, the worst kind of management there is, I think. But I had this love for VR just burning the whole time that I wanted to show it to people. And I was switching through different management jobs. I worked my way up. And finally, it got to a point where I had this chunk saved up. Nat had gotten a good job, and she was like, you hate management. You hate what you're doing. Why don't you just take a break and figure out something else you want to do? Like, we're at a position where you could take 6 months off and see what happens. And so I did. And I was like, I love VR so much. Why don't I just start a channel? And from there, I mean, it's been we are 8 days from the 4-year anniversary as we speak of the channel. We went from, literally staring at a computer, having absolutely no idea to what I was doing, where now we have a full-time editor cameraman who helps me. We just started renting a studio space. And it's like, I get to live my dream because of all these people out there who saw something in VR and something in me and stuck around with me through this journey. And so I'm so lucky. I wake up every day and I go, what do I want to do today? And that kind of freedom, like, that is a dream that I didn't know I would ever get to have. And I feel so lucky. Yeah, I feel like it's everyone's dream. Yeah.
We're
just want to
chasing
get
it.
that freedom. And it feels weird to be there, but it's funny because I probably film and make videos, respond to comments. I probably do more time than I did, in a job, but I don't think of this as work. I've never called it work.
It's fun.
This is still my hobby. It's still fun. And it just happens to pay the bills.
Yeah. Well,
So-
you know, if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. That's that old cliche, but it's so true, you know. And like you said, Morpheus, we're all chasing it, you know, at some
And
point.
we've said on the show too that like the flip side of that is when you're doing what you love, you never work, but you also never take a day off because
Yeah.
you're like, oh, I love doing this. So you get up, like Jay said, every morning going, oh, what am I going to do today? How am I going to be about this? Like,
Let me knock out that
and,
to-do list, you know.
like, I think it's awesome, you know, when I see people like you who are actually doing that. Like we've all said, that's our goal, is to be full-time content creators and
Exactly.
to do like the podcast, to do YouTube and that kind of thing. Even with, you know, our sugar mamas on the side that are helping bump things along. And
got
so,
them.
yeah, it's awesome because when we have guests like you on here, it's a great reminder that like it's totally attainable.
Exactly.
Well,
Well, and
dreams are possible.
I think we even said it. I think we even said it over on the last episode we did over on yours, Jay. It was the idea of like, how seriously do you want to take it? You know, if you want to put those hours in, you want to put that work in, like you said there, and yeah, you're gonna love it, but you're also gonna be working, you're gonna be doing it every day, all day, you know. And again, it's great. I know it's great, you know, when you get to do what you love, but yeah, just be prepared that it's writing is one thing that I always go back to that reminds me of that. It's like, it's not all sunshines and rainbows, you know. It's easy when it comes out and flows, right? And finding those valleys, Jay, and you know, as 4 years in, you know, it's not like you were at the beginning of YouTube, right? You know, it's not like I hear that excuse a lot with new content creators, like, oh, I already missed the wave, you know, that's already been done. You know, film podcast is a big one. It's like, I've already, you know, there's already a million film or true crime podcasts out there. There's already, you know, what am I going to bring to the
Got Mr. Beast over here that got famous because he counted to 1 million on YouTube. That's
But-
literally his first video, which is him counting to 1 million.
Yeah,
but
but now he's curing blindness and deafness and AIDS, I'm pretty sure. is the
Throwing
next
millions
video.
of dollars at
if
people.
you can scale up, that's a good point. Exactly. But that's the thing that, to Theron's point, that gives me that kind of like reminder, and almost, again, I'm going to sound a little sappy here, but gives me that hope, is like, no, fuck that. If you do it, you grind it out, and you know, if you're hating what you're doing, fucking change it, go after what you want, and put your heart and soul into it. And guess what? You can have a nice looking JayBratt studio right there with a fucking neon sign and a t-shirt, motherfuckers. Like, that's what you can do.
And the pyramid PC, you can't forget about that. That is the
The
wildest
pyramid
gaming PC.
is pretty cool.
honestly, the fact that you had to like point it out, Theron, is I wanted it to just like go unnoticed, because I'm a little green right now. Look at, like,
Yeah.
God, that's beautiful. God, that's good.
You know, it
Gorgeous.
doesn't have that Apple.
They always
Come
love
on,
to give me
Apple.
shit. They always love to give me. I love my cube. Okay, don't talk shit about
It's
my
pretty
fucking
cool,
cube.
but it's not a pyramid.
Get the fuck out of here.
There are no RGBs coming out of that thing.
The strongest structure in nature.
Yeah, there you go.
There are no Ruth Bader Ginsburgs coming out of that thing.
Yeah.
The shape that contains all other shapes. In it.
Yeah. Back on track, Jay. As you can
Like,
see, we're gonna get a little wild here in loosey goosey. We're gonna get to know Jay, and that's what this is all about. What's
I
up, Mark?
really like the your sound paneling on that door, how it kind of overlaps.
That one.
Yeah, I was just looking at that. Like, that is a really cool idea on how to do that.
Is it glass? Like a not glass? What is the word I'm looking for? Plexiglass. No, not plexiglass necessarily.
What is it? What's
Frosted. You know what
is
I'm
that?
talking about?
What
Where
is
it's like
that right
frosted over a glass or over a panel.
Do you want me to break the magic here? Like, if I tell you, it's not going to be as magical.
We're
Like,
studio
I
I
should-
already
wanna
know. So
It's probably like one of those wraps that you put on.
It's
the
a
door.
poster, isn't it? That's a fucking poster.
it's a door wrap. It's just
Yeah.
this giant sticker. It just covers the
Wow.
door.
Well, you
And on
know,
camera, everything in the studio looks really quite amazing. In person, this stuff right here is like not good looking. But on camera, that's
exactly,
movie
it
magic
translates
for you.
good.
Right
That's the
there.
important part. You just have to get the framing from here to here right, and the rest of the room can be hell.
I may get some panels now and actually do that.
You know, right?
Because that overlapping look is really cool.
Yeah, it's cool. I think it
That's
would be
the thing.
awesome, like the 3-dimensionality, but that's
Yeah.
work, man. Those
Yeah.
panels, they are so hard to get to stay up reliably if you don't.
Don't
just
even.
glue
Don't even
them
get me
together.
started on it.
Yeah, you
I was
know.
gonna say, mine looks like
I-
shit back here because it actually is nice vibe when you're in the studio, but nobody ever gets to see the studio because we're anonymous. So it's only like
Mhm.
Morpheus and Theron when he flies around
Let
the
me tell
fucking
you-
world.
This is
It's
one
like
of
the
best-
Batcave, you know. It's really tricked out, but it's only for Batman.
That is a weird thing. It's like, who is this lazy Susan for?
Yeah.
It is real cool in here. I
You
mean,
can't
like
see
every
you can't see
surface-
any of this over here. Like none of that.
every surface is sound paneled, like with different colors, and there's LEDs all over the place, and like
We're not
it's
talking about the studio more.
real
Just don't
something.
don't give. Literally, I just said because we're anonymous. They're gonna be like, and it's at address 1111.
Right here, let me just give you our IP real quick.
Right. Yeah.
There's the Batmobile. It's on a big lazy Susan. You know, the contractors live in this town, right? The guys that built this live here.
Just look for the gigantic penny. That's how you'll know you're in the right place.
There you go. Oh,
Why
shit.
isn't there a VR Batman's Batcave? Like that would be an
There
amazing
is.
experience.
I'm sure there
is.
is.
Of course,
You
Jay
missed out
knows.
on it.
Yeah.
Well, I know there's like it's one of the Arkham games. I know it's like a little offshoot thing, but I want just like a free roam, like just
You wanna be
experience
Batman.
the Batcave in
Well,
Just
full
like on
fidelity.
VRchat or
See,
something.
I didn't follow Batman like that closely. I watched the movies and stuff, but I played that game and I got down to the Batcave and I looked to one side and there's a T-Rex and the other side and there's a giant penny. And I was like, what is this crap? And someone was like, dude, that's what's in the Batcave.
That's
And
the
I was
stuff.
like, I had no idea that was
Yeah, 'cause
like part
that's-
of the lore.
Just on a little tangent here, everyone likes to act like Batman's all like hard ass and doesn't have feelings, but he collects souvenirs from like every guy he's ever beat. He's like, oh,
Like a
let me keep
T-Rex.
you're like a serial killer. He's like,
I was
Yeah.
gonna say that's serial
trinkets
killer right there.
from-
Like a T-Rex and a giant penny.
Yeah, that's fucking that's serial killer right there. Absolutely.
I'm excited to see more. So this is just me nerding out, but Warhammer, okay? Warhammer in VR. There's
Would
some
be a game
cool
changer.
stuff like Sisters of Battle. I haven't played it yet, but I've heard really good things about it.
You know, I mean, if anybody doesn't know what Jay does on his channel, because we said he has one, we didn't, you know, do a
Just
full.
like guy with a VR
I
headset.
was say we didn't do a full dive into what it is that Jay does there.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, I hope you did there. And I hope Jay did more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea is like, you know, exploring what's the latest, greatest, newest, best fucking thing. And you know what, Jay, I meant to say it earlier when you were mentioning like building the community as a content creator, which I fucking love because as one, that's one thing that I definitely can speak to is the best part is building that community. But the reason for it is because you do a great fucking job, Jay. Like honestly, like when you go through and you cover everything in the full dive, it's what I want to know. And sometimes you'll get those that do too much, and I'm guilty of that, where I get like bogged down in the details, and Theron's got to like, all right, move on, shut the fuck up, nobody cares about this part. and then there's the other side that's just too cursory, and it's, you know, I'm like, well, what about this and what about that, and then I got to go watch, you know, 3-4 more other videos before I find Jay's video that covers everything I was looking for. So again, I got to give props where props are due, and you're doing a great job, Jay. That's why you're almost at 100,000. You know, you will be shortly.
Yep. And then on that main channel, you do like a lot of product reviews too, which
Mhm.
I think is the best product review, like VR specific channel on YouTube.
Oh yeah.
Just because like you're not afraid to be like, hey man, this thing sucks. Like I love like the bend tests and everything. Like I cringe every time because I'm like, I can't imagine. But
And
it's
if it
nice,
does,
like
yeah.
it gives me confidence to see you do it because I go, oh, okay, it's a good product. I'm never gonna do anything that bad to it, so
Thank
it'll be
God.
great.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's nice to hear somebody who's not like, well, they sent me this, so I have to say something nice about it. To just have that honesty of like, nope, they gave it to me for free, but even for free, I can't compliment this thing.
They sent it to me, and they are going to regret it.
I have gotten some very angry emails from a few of them, but the funny thing about it, the companies I have the best relationships with are not the ones who sent me the best products and I love them. They were the ones who sent me something and I was like, this sucks and this needs fixing, and they fixed it, and then they sent me another one and they made something better. Those are the ones that I have these long-term relationships with. Asterion Products, the sponsor of our podcast, I crapped all over a set of grips they sent me back in the day. Maybe crapped all over is a little extreme. I remember they weren't happy with it, but they were like, hey, I appreciate your real feedback. It started a real conversation about the price, and it mattered to them. And ever since then, we've been really close. So it makes a difference from that side too. Like these companies, they might pretend like they like these people that are all yes men, but ultimately everybody wants to make something better, and they need the people who are going to actually point out how to make it better. So
I mean, especially in emerging market, that's on this the conversation again, in case you haven't noticed, Jay, is going to go wherever it's going to go. That made me think of authenticity, right? Again, back to like the community building around companies. That's a huge, especially for me, huge thing that I buy into is the authenticity, right? And if you're going to make something that has those flaws, you should be willing to humility, right, to fix it. So it only makes sense that you would have a good rapport with those companies now because they had that ability. And at the same time, like you said, if you don't point out those flaws, then you're just putting out more and more shit products. And so the fact that Asterion, because again, Theron has it displayed, I have my my headset over here sitting on it. Like there's a reason we all have that, is because it is actually really cool. It is actually really good, product now. The only way they got there was from that feedback, from that legitimate, and then humility to fix it. So, props to them, and again, recognize it when it happens. So I love that authenticity portion. For you, is that something that you had to, I don't know, tackle or answer yourself when you were
Were you
first
afraid of those negative emails?
exactly because like us, we sought out to kind of like ruffle some feathers. That was like our main objective.
That's our whole thing.
Yeah. And why we have to be anonymous a lot of times is because if CO so-and-so finds out, it'll be a less than ideal for us. For you, was that something that you also had to be like, okay, well, I'm going to ruffle some feathers if I negative review this? Or
I don't think I ever thought of it that way, was the weird part. Like, I was just like, I am sick of review channels that never tell me what I want to know. Because if I'm buying a product, I probably already know what's good about it. Like, I've at least got that much in my head that, I think this is good for these reasons. But I want someone to point out the little things that suck about it, could be improved, just those things. Because if I know, okay, I love this head strap. They say that the hinge feels a little light, but it works well. It's got this other thing that they don't really like, but it's otherwise it's great. I'm going to buy that because I'm like, okay, I now know what I'm getting into.
Yeah.
But so many of these reviewers, this is good and that's good and this is good, and they might very slightly gloss over. I wish they would kind of change this and boom, move on. And I'm like, no, tell me all the bad, because I already know why I want to buy it for the good. I just want to know if it's really something I'm going to spend my money on. Because I buy things that I know aren't going to be incredible. I knew the PlayStation VR, even though it hadn't come out yet, seeing that they were using the old PS3 or PS2 tech even on parts of it, I was like, ooh, there's going to be some things about this. But at this price point and what I'm looking for, I think this is the best purchase I can make at the time. And I just want a good informed decision. So I was like, I'm just going to throw this stuff out there. And I was like, they're not paying me, so I don't really think they can get that mad. I didn't really think about the emails. Like, yeah, they send angry emails, but I don't accept money for product reviews, so they don't really have a leg to stand on if they get annoyed at what I say.
Right, they've got no leverage.
It's not like they can be like, we're not going to pay you now. You're like, fuck it, I don't care.
Really, all they can say is they're just not going to send you more of this stuff that you didn't like. So
you already gave one.
No, I think like another thing I really like to see too is when you see reviewers talk about stuff and when they say like, oh, here's a negative, and they give what legitimately for them is like the biggest problem with it. And I'm like, oh, cool, I don't care about that at all. If that's the only problem with it, then I feel great about buying it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times too, though, that these reviews aren't made for that informed consumer that you're talking about, Jay. I think a lot of people buy stuff and then they go to reviews afterwards to like reassure them that they made a good
make them feel good about what they bought.
I think that like the reason why a lot of these like yes men review types are good, because people are like, oh, good, okay, so and so says that I got a good thing, so I'm feel better now about how I overpaid for it, probably.
It's such the worst way to buy stuff, but I think you're totally right. A lot of people do that, and then after the fact, like, okay, let's make sure everyone agrees with this purchase I made. Like, do some research ahead of time, people.
Well, it's like with any purchase, any like car buying. I recently went through like the whole car buying process, and that's the number one thing that you'll find that you need to pay attention to is what is the salesman trying to sell you, and find all the stuff outside of that, right? Because they'll, like you said, they'll always give you, it's the leather seats, or it's the newest model, or it's the fastest thing. They will never tell you it has a huge blind spot. It'll never tell you it has a terrible front crash rating. It'll never, those things are the things you want to know. And if I'm going to go to a channel that I trust, it's because they point those things out to me. It's not because, like you said, they gave me the salesman pitch.
Right, I know it's a
100%.
fast car. That's why I'm looking at it.
Exactly. I think that's a perfect way to say it, Jay, right there. It's like, I already know all the good stuff. That's why I'm looking at it. What are the bad things? And to your point there, do those apply to me? Am I going to use it for that reason? Therefore, do I care about those flaws? And if I do, I don't.
You could be like,
that's
I
an
never
informed
go in
decision.
reverse, so I don't care if it has blind spots.
Well, I never go in reverse. Sure.
He's got the lazy Susan in his back game. He doesn't need to back up.
But you know what?
Just spins it around the right way.
Fair fucking point, guys. You know what? I stand corrected. Fair point.
One of those train track things.
So I mean, I love that portion of the channel, Jay. I love that, and I love that mindset as well. And I'm hopeful that more content creators out there, more reviewers, just the audience at large, the consumers at large, hopefully get more and more savvy, to that mentality, you know. And I think one thing that, if you ask the baby boomers, my parents, your parents probably, that they were always like preaching on was like, oh, the internet's gonna make you dumb, calculators are gonna make you dumb. But the flip side is so possible and almost is inevitable at this point, right? I don't know if you've noticed this now with VR. I've noticed it, at least in the small communities that we engage in, where people, because they have access to all of this, you know, it's easy to immediately call out someone's bullshit, you know? So like Jay is like, oh, this Asterion product is like the best product, you know, it's the bee's knees on every front. All right, let me see what else anybody else is saying about Asterion products. And oh, really? They only have a 1-star in every other category on Amazon, on, you know, gaming reviews, on every Best Buy, you know. Really? Asterion products? You know, let me take that trust down a little bit for Jay. So I don't know. I think with VR now being as new as it is, you know what? That's where the conversation goes. What do you see as the biggest problems and hurdles right now with VR? Because Theron has, I don't know, bent over backwards and successfully pulled us into it. But it
really did. Like, we all bought them. We all have VR now.
Was it an easy
was it an easy sell?
Was it an easy sell, Theron?
Oh, I think it was just like Jay was talking about earlier. You get it and you're like, I want to show everyone this. This is so cool that like I just want everyone to be a part of it. And then especially with us being in like kind of remote locations, it works even better because it can bring us all into that one place to hang out, you know, for a game night or even just to shoot a podcast episode.
Yeah. But like, I'm not doing that. I don't know. Morpheus, are you selling VR to other people you work with or anything?
We'll talk about Demio sometimes.
Okay. So
I recommend certain things I've done, like, oh, if you have it, this is really cool.
Yeah.
But I'm not like, you need to get VR.
I think if somebody's already thinking about it, I'll tell them, hey, this is the one I got. I like Demio for this reason, that kind of a thing too. But I certainly didn't do what Theron did. I certainly didn't do what Jay did. So I don't know. Do you guys, Jay, do you find any of those like hurdles that you're trying to overcome in your content creation of like I don't know, that you've had to overcome and answered now?
I think that, well, to the bigger picture here, VR itself, what are those hurdles? And I think we already kind of touched on it weirdly, because we were joking about how with a Nintendo Switch, you can set it down, you can look around, you can like just easily, your whole world is still there. It's like watching a TV show. I can have a TV show on Netflix. I can be cleaning my house. Doesn't mean I have to stare at it. I cannot have a VR headset on and clean my house. I can't be playing a game and watching, you know, babysitting or something at the same time. VR's biggest hurdle is also its most amazing thing about it. It's so freaking immersive that you cannot split your attention whatsoever. And that's a hard sell for people who are out working 50 hours a week, raising 2 kids, and they got a puppy because somehow it made sense to get a puppy when you were having 2 kids. And it always does. You have to. And it's so hard for that. And so that's where, as we're starting to see the whole industry merging with AR. So you take VR, you put AR together, and it becomes what people are calling it XR, mixed reality.
What's the AR?
Augmented reality.
Okay.
So like Pokemon Go.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So think about even something like Beat Saber. It's got those environments. They're cool. But what if you could see your actual room and the blocks were still coming at you? Now, suddenly it opens up the possibility that if you need to keep an eye on your dog when they need to go outside because you're potty training them or other things happening, how you just have that awareness there. that's where things are going to get more approachable. Those people who are too afraid to put a headset on and block out their entire world. And it's a very real fear. There's a few people I still have never gotten to put a VR headset on because they're just too weirded out by having something on their head and not being able to see the world around them.
It is a little interesting. I mean, especially like I know Theron and I have done some of the like scary kind of games. Like, you know, you go into like the horror mansion or whatever, and it's like it's really fucking scary.
Like it gets to you. Yeah, it's like it feels more it's the sense of presence. Like you really get concerned when you're running. You like I find myself like a horror movie, like looking behind me and then going like, no, it slowed me down. Like
I remember even playing Demio, it was like when we were fighting the Witch King or whatever. And he like shows up, like the shadow shows up like in the room around you.
Yeah.
And that like I saw that and it scared the shit out of me. It like made me jump. I was like, holy fuck. And then I realized, oh, I'm just in my office still. Like, but like it's very engrossing.
Yeah, and immersive for your brain, if anything else, right? Yeah.
Well, and I think part of it is just because like the human brain it doesn't recognize being in two places at once. It can only really associate you in one place. So it's either wherever your physical body is or whatever you're like paying attention to. And I think I've been to like a couple of different concerts in VR. I've been to like live performances and stuff. And when I think back on all of those as the memory, I remember it like as if I was there at the actual event. I don't think about me sitting in my room or standing in the middle of like wherever I was with a VR headset on. Because like that wasn't the memory I was making. I was thinking about what I was actually doing. And so I think that's a huge part of it too. That makes it hard. Like your body just doesn't want to be in two places at once.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great fucking point too, that I never, like, I guess I subconsciously considered, but once you pointed that out there and it's like, holy shit, that is 100% of those memories we've made, you know, of those concerts, of Demio games, you know, even when we're quote unquote in the basement in Demio, I definitely recognize myself in the basement in Demio.
Right, exactly.
Doesn't
you remember
exist.
being in that basement doing a thing and being the king when like, no, we weren't. We were in 3 separate rooms. Like,
so I mean, So to Jay's point, then I don't know. Do you think that's going to be the final domino that's going to get the rest of the audience or the rest of the market on board, where we have that XR as the main, I don't even know, the technology is going to be at that level to where it's no longer the VR AR separation. It's fully there, and you can kind of toggle or, you know, up and down kind of your immersion. Is that going to be like the game changer?
I think that will be what will get the people in who are too afraid to step in now. It's going to be all of a sudden we're going to have these AR glasses that could, in theory replace phones. We were talking to this one developer who is saying how in 20 years from now, a phone could look like an archaic, weird thing to people, thinking you have to hold this chunky block in front of you. You have to pull it out to see your text messages. Where if you just have AR glasses on, your notifications pop up in it. Your directions on Google show up on the actual street in front of you. Everything that we use our phones now could be replaced with these glasses, as long as the user interface is really seamless with our lives. And then if you have ones that you can also, you know, touch a button, flip a switch, and then it goes into fully immersive mode. You're playing a game. You no longer see the world around you if you don't want to. That would be like kind of the pinnacle of the tech, short of, you know, firing it directly into our brains somehow or having a neural link.
See, I'm glad you got it, because that's exactly where my brain was going, was the like implants, right? And as we go, so the whole idea of archaic, you know, technology being separate from the body. That's,
and like on that, I just think of like phones from the 80s. Like they're this gigantic
brick
thing, and we're like, oh, people used to carry those to talk around on. Like, I could totally see people thinking about smartphones that way in 20 years. Like,
well, the funniest part, a slight tangent, but I'm coming back with it, is that scene in Men in Black 3 when he pulls out the old school brick. He's like, don't put that up to your fucking head. Gonna cause cancer right now. But to Jay's point on like you know, to the peak of technology, I do think once it hits the implant mode, like to the Neuralink mode, like if we're already right there on the
people
incline,
have to commit to an implant. Like that's a huge.
No, it's not. Think about contacts. Those are an implantable medical device. You have to have certain clearance and certain sterilization standards, etc. And that's just one very easy example that we currently completely accept. Take people back in the the 1900s. They had glasses back then, but they didn't have contacts. Imagine trying to convince them you're going to place this into your eyeball.
Yeah,
They would have
the
been like,
1920s, they were going to get chlamydia.
they were, yeah, they're
Yeah.
well, that's kind of where we're at right now, is people are thinking about it in that same like outdated mindset of like, fuck that. Like, no, I'm not putting that into my body. But kids today who grew up with the internet know nothing else. They never would have even been able to imagine the world without the internet. Give it 20 more years. No one's going to be able to imagine life without a lens replacement for babies. We do fucking circumcisions on babies as it will get to a point in our society, or as a species, where it's just completely acceptable to just swap these little things out, and you have perfect vision forever, and you have that augmented reality feature, and
I think we've kind of been like dancing around it. Like the answer to like, oh, what is going to get people to adopt this who aren't already, is like, it has to be useful to them. So like, whether it's with the example of glass or contact, like making it so you could see where you couldn't see before, whether it's with a phone, like the reason the iPhone took off is because there was an app for that. And so people are like, oh, I have all these little things that I could do with my phone, and now I don't have to have a calendar, or I don't have to have a notepad, or I don't have to worry about a Garmin GPS in my car. And so like, it was stuff like that where they're like, oh, this can become useful in my life, that really spurred the adoption. And for the longest time, I couldn't get my dad to like try VR at all. He wasn't interested. He was like, no, the real world's crazy enough for me. Like, I don't need any of that. My mom loves Beat Saber. My dad would not try it until we got a full flight sim set up.
That's
with
cool.
Microsoft Flight Simulator, and I got the VR hooked up to it, and I was like, no, you could be in the plane. Like, and it was finally like, for him, he was like, oh, this is a thing that I want badly enough that I'm willing to try VR for it. And it went terribly, by the way. It was not good at all, because the level of him, he couldn't see anything. He was fumbling around at stuff. Like, he's not a gamer in any way, so he didn't understand like what push the A button meant in any sort of like way. So I wouldn't say that it was the best time. He wasn't excited to try it again. He
wasn't sold.
But it was that like desire of like, oh, this is a thing that actually in my life I want to do. And so I think right now, really, like, Meta is trying to push VR for like what do like day-to-day like office work, and kind of like the more performance side, and it just does not work very well. I don't know if you've ever, Jay, have you ever tried to do any like word editing in VR, or like, are you gonna do your taxes on the Quest?
I mean, even streaming. So that's a gamer thing.
We haven't done it,
and just that simple task. With a VR headset on, I walk over when something's wrong to my computer, I pull my headset up and I fix it on the computer. And when I spent those 10 days and nights straight in VR, and I was going to keep the headset on, I no longer had that choice. And I had to learn how to do everything through the headset. And after that, I said, I will never go through trying to fix a problem through my headset again if I don't have to, because the interfaces we're used to are easier. And the problem is with VR still, it's a new technology. It's young. There is a better way to run your computer in a VR headset than there is with a mouse and keyboard. But yet when you are using a VR headset, you have a virtual freaking keyboard that you're trying to deal with. There needs to be new interfaces that will utilize the technology in a way that's faster and easier to navigate it. And we're nowhere near that on business stuff. We've been doing business on a keyboard and mouse for way too long.
Yeah.
And that's not going to change overnight. They need to look at the other options, because I always say VR is for everyone, but that doesn't mean gaming is. I have convinced people VR through sculpting apps, through art, through Google Maps to travel and to go to the places they used to live. Those are some of the tools that you need to use on those people that don't want to game, because not everyone's a gamer. But you can show people amazing things in VR and still convince them it's good without it being that. I've been messing around in Immerse, relearning the Spanish that I've lost since high school and college. There's all kinds of case uses for VR that aren't gaming, but people are still looking at it as a gaming console.
That's
because it's the only thing that they're really doing well right now, in my opinion, is that they're trying to do productivity. It's stumbling. There's other things, like, so one of my favorite topics to discuss is like the non-gaming things that you can do in VR, because they don't highlight it enough at all. The stuff that would get your grandma involved, or somebody who is trying to relax, like the meditation, the fitness side of it, I think is huge. and it's something that they're really not pushing.
I mean, we had that whole like workroom thing that we were using for a little bit for just like meeting about the podcast, where you're in like a little office, you know, workroom, and you could like, you have your whiteboard,
avatars and everything.
You have your avatars, you have your whiteboards, you can draw things, you can project it on the wall so everyone can see. Like, that was pretty cool. I mean,
well, but it's still, even that was like, this is a great meeting spot, but it's still too limited for us to like have the podcast in here.
Right. And that's the thing that I think, Jay, when the technology hits that, because I mean, like you're explaining with the phone there, and it's, you know, it's like once it got an app for that, it became useful. The technology was there, the potential was there, but it hadn't taken off because it hadn't had that connection with the consumer yet. I think that's kind of where we're at with VR, right? That Jay was describing. Like, the potential is definitely there, but right now it's just still a pain in the ass, and like nothing has connected the way that it needs to connect for it to take off at this point.
That's really the best way to describe VR right now. It's kind of a pain in the ass. Like, for a lot of us, it's worth it to struggle through it, because then it's a fantastic experience. But like, I think every time we go to play, it's like, oh, there's a software update. Hold on, we gotta do like,
well, my battery just died for no reason.
Yeah, exactly. Your battery will die and then not charge, and you'll have to charge it all day because you had it on a charger that wasn't putting out enough current.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah, little things like that. But again, hearing those feedbacks, I hope and trust that they will be making the adjustments that they need to make. But I do think, like, we're, as VR users, I think we're able to recognize those possibilities, and we're looking for the uses, you know, like you said, Morpheus, we saw the workrooms and we were like, yeah, this is useful. This is, you know, whatever. It's just not quite there. Theron is still looking. He's like, well, we can still use, VRchat. We can go to this world and set up the camera this way, and we can actually do the podcast. And we have proven that we are able to do that. Is it still a pain in the ass? Yes, but we're already there. We're already in VR. So we're looking for these uses, you know, we're trying to be, like you said, Jay, we're on the forefront of it. So there's only, like you said, 20 million at most who are out there, you know, looking for these solutions. And out of the 20 million, maybe only half of that are actually using it for a like furthering purpose. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Maybe what, like a quarter of us are actually using it. The rest of them are just adopting it for the sake of novelty, for the sake of gaming, for the things they are doing well.
Cool thing, you got it for Christmas, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. So what's the time frame for you, Jay, that you think we're going to be passing that first, you know, or big hurdle, or that big hill? Like, when are we going to crest this hill so that, you know, it is the technology's there, the potential's been met, the consumer base has been found? I don't know, what time frame do you feel?
I feel like most people in the VR industry would not want to hear this, but I think it's still 10, 15 years.
Really?
As shocking as that is, look at how long it took the iPhone, even from its inception, to really be like, okay, everyone has to have a smartphone.
People don't remember, but if you look back at the first iPhones, they kind of sucked. Like, they did not get the vision that they have now for, like, till the iPhone 4. Like,
I mean, I think smartphones were like, they would have been out for like 5 or 6 years before I ever got one.
Honestly, it was like 10 for me, because I remember it came out when I was in like junior high time
we were
frame.
in like middle school, I think, when the iPhone came out. And it wasn't until like my senior year of high school, or maybe junior, that I like had a phone. I had a Windows phone before that, but that doesn't count.
No, that's not a phone.
It
was not a smartphone.
That's like the Zoom. The Zune. That's what it was, compared to an iPod.
I had a Zune. Zunes were
exactly.
Great. I still have a Zune. My brother went through this whole phase where he like rebuilt Zunes, like really specifically Zunes. It's super funny because we had them growing up, like we both did. And we bonded over Zunes. So for like my birthday, or for Christmas, like 2 or 3 years ago, he got me, like, he had rebuilt a Zune for me, like an 8 gig Zune.
The 8 gig.
And it had like the little dock and everything for it.
Fact
that's amazing.
Your brother became a repairman for Zune, where you can take any iPod or iPhone into a billion Apple stores out there, they'll just replace it for you.
Right.
Says all you need to say.
And like, I love having it because I have it in my studio set up like on the dock. I always have it. And like, people will go in there and be like, is that a Zune? I've had people literally look and go, is that a fucking Zune? Where the fuck did you get a Zune?
Where did you find this?
Yeah, what
thing?
antique shop?
Yeah,
are
I
you-
still don't know where he got them, but he would buy them online and he'd like fix them. Like he would like what's the word? Like
refurbish.
he'd refurbish Zunes. Like,
Yeah,
I know
so
there's
he
a
has
market
one.
for that with like the old iPods too. Like people would refurbish them and then they'll increase the storage. So like you said, it was an 8 gig, but then they'll sell it and now it has like a terabyte of storage on it because
Wow.
storage has just gotten so ridiculously tiny now.
Yeah, right. And for the same size, dude. Yeah, I don't know, man. 10 to 15 years though, Jay. Like, fuck me. Like, even so, I'm on the boat where I
But like
see
we're talking like that's the utopia where people are using XR as their
Right,
like,
right,
everyday
right.
replacement for a smartphone. 10 to
is
15
that
years.
what we're talking about, or are we talking about like VR being, like a technology, even if it's just like glasses or a contact or whatever, where it's an option. I mean, because there are people out there who have opted out of technology. There's plenty of them out there who've decided, no, I'm doing the flip phone thing. I'll be on the internet when I decide to be on the internet. I'll send an email when I need to, but they've opted out for the most part, and they don't do the whole
That's your
technology
next
thing.
video idea, Jay. You need to find an Amish community and
I mean, I
introduce them
go-
to VR.
I mean, I go back and forth every other week on if I want to wear my smartwatch or not. Because like some weeks I'm like, oh, I love this Google Pixel watch I have, and then other weeks I'm like, it's too much. We need to get back to analog. And
Back to
it's like
the
I can
woods.
never fully decide on like who I am when it comes to technology. Some days I'm like, it's the future, and other days I'm like, it's the devil.
Well, Morpheus's chaotic nature aside, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, is that what we're talking about here, though, Jay? Is like full adoption, full crest of technology?
Synchronization.
See,
You're
sure.
talking mainstream, most people have some sort of head wearable smart device that's not the Ray-Bans that are just take pictures. I mean, like something with a display that can display information back and forth. If Google Glass hadn't looked so ridiculous, we would actually be closer to this. But it just
I
became
wanted
so
Google Glass. I
Yeah,
thought
it
it was
was a-
cool. It
it
had
was a
that
great
like
idea.
Star Trek, very like Borg
Mhm.
style aesthetic to it.
They
Mm,
just really they needed to pull it off in a better form factor.
mm.
And if people hadn't gotten the reputation for being so nerdy and so ridiculous and people hating it, we'd probably be further along now than we even are. But it like shunned everybody away from the technology. It's kind of like what happened to the video games industry when it became the nerdy loser thing to do, and then we had the video game crash of like the 80s.
Right. And then fucking
like-
ET happened.
Yeah. And set it all back. And then now everyone's a gamer. My freaking parents got into gaming because of Animal Crossing, and they're like 60, I think. Like,
Yeah.
Don't even get
Yeah,
me started on
everyone's
Stardew Valley.
Mhm.
yeah. It's those kinds of things that you need that for mass adoption. But what we really need VR, it needs to be convenient and easy, and we are so far from that. A
Yeah. I
Quest
think that's
is
a
so
really-
heavy.
Like
Yeah.
interesting observation though that between Google Glass and Google Cardboard, they're really fucking VR here. Like you're not
What
helping
is-
Google.
What is the Google Cardboard? Like, is that real? I've seen like pictures.
Yeah,
It's like your
so-
but, like,
phone in it or something, right?
So my cardboard one is folded up, but this is the Google Daydream right here. Same basic thing. So yeah, you just put a phone in the front.
I have one of those that I
Yeah.
bought on Amazon like 6 years ago.
Exactly.
Yep.
For
And
most
I-
people, that's the only way that they've used VR.
I used it to watch porn one time, and I was like, "Well, this is kind of lame."
And if porn can't adopt the technology, there's nothing.
I got
out
my
there.
Right,
Quest,
then it's
and
a
I watched-
failure. Yeah.
I watched porn on my Quest, and I was like, "This is sweet."
This is a much better time.
Like,
having to
oh,
hold the cardboard up with one hand was just ruining it for you. You
Right,
needed both
exactly.
hands.
I remember being like, "This can't be actual VR." Like VR heads. I remember thinking VR headsets are like $500. I bought this for $15 on Amazon. Like this can't be it.
This can't be the level they're actually
And
at.
then Hermes finally got his after Theron bugged him about it, and I was like, "Whoa!"
I
this
sold on my
is-
Doge, remember? I was like,
this
fuck
is
it. I'm
really
going to sell it.
cool.
I'm going to grab it. I don't fucking care.
This is actually pretty neat.
Did that turn out to be a
man.
good decision or a bad one as far as Doge was concerned?
I have a great
Should've
savings
sold more
account.
of it.
Yeah, honestly, if they had let me, I had a bunch in Robinhood, and when it peaked at price, they were like, to stabilize markets of stability, we're not allowing any transaction for altcoins at the time. And so I just watched it tank from there. Like it was up to $1.10 or something.
He rode it to the moon.
So I could have sold, if I had sold it right there, like this would be our full-time gig, and I would not be in the military. But then I had to watch it crash all the way back down to like 25 cents and then sell it.
It's still a lot better than what you bought it for.
I mean, I sold a lot on other platforms. Anyway, we're not talking about Dogecoin today.
Hit the camera. I gotta hit the camera. I gotta take a Morpheus.
Right, uno momento.
I gotta take an MM.
Uno momento there, Morpheus. There you go. You're good.
Cool.
He's got to take a Morpheus minute. But no, I mean, what was I talking about? I have no fucking idea. I just remember that crash of Dogecoin of how pissed I was. I wanted
Google
to
Cardboard took us on the road, and Google screwing up VR in general was kind of the opinion.
And they just announced they're doing another headset with Samsung, so that's probably not good.
Oh boy. Well, the adoption of technology. Yeah, I agree. I agree with both of you guys. There is once it gets, because I'm ever since day one when Theron showed me the headset, and it clicked, and I was like, oh, I get it now. Ever since then, I've been like, now let's hurry up. I want the Matrix. I want full immersion. I want all the way. I want to Morpheus' point, whether it's porn or whether it's Demio. Like, I want that full experience. I want the smell, the taste, the touch, the sensation. I want that all. And I know that's 100 years probably. Like, it's out there. It's out there. But that's, I want to see those big leaps, and right now we have the visual leap and that Theron introduced us to, and I'm like, fuck yeah, this is awesome. What's the next leap going to be, Jay? Is it going to be, you say it's XR, so it's going to be where you can interface with it and the world around you, similar to the phone. That's going to be the next leap, you think? And that's going to be 10, 15 at best. Then where do you see, I don't know, yourself going once you have this leap? Because yourself being pretty heavily into VR right now. I mean, it's on the shirt, it's on the podcast, it's on the YouTube, it's on the sign. What are you just going to do a quick little rebrand in XR, or, how do you see yourself adapting to all of those like changes in your sphere?
I mean, so the channel was always named JayBratt. The VR came along with it when I tried to get like Instagram and stuff, and JayBratt was already taken by some teenage girl. But the channel, I actually never put VR on the channel name because I always wanted the flexibility to be able to do other random things. Like, I didn't want people to be like, okay, this is only VR, because like, I think most content creators, you want the freedom that you can share other passions too. Even if people aren't going to always be there for it, you have that freedom. But I think that the term VR will probably be what people still call it. It's just like how everyone calls their VR headset now their Oculus, even if it's not from Oculus. It's exactly what happened with Nintendo. So in the future, even if we move into XR things there, I think that VR will still always kind of have a name in it. But I plan to follow whatever I love in the tech, and currently it's been VR. I played some AR stuff, and I think it's really cool, but it's even further out. It's got a ways to go. But I'm just as excited for that. I'm just as excited to show all those things off too. But for now, like you said, I want that 100% immersion. I want to go deep. I'm the one who's experimented with haptics that aren't even haptics, and I've tried to mess with everything I can to see how far the rabbit hole goes for now. But we still taste. I mean, that would be so tough. Smell. There's some smell masks they're trying. We're getting closer. We're inching closer.
Cartridges and stuff.
Yeah, but I think that haptics will continue to get a lot better, especially like having a PSVR 2 and the headset haptics. I see the room for it. We just don't have the games and the delivery yet that's really going to convince us.
I feel like developers haven't figured out how to use it yet.
Yeah, it's kind of like, though, I mean, that rumble pack on the N64 was so awkward. It was terribly positioned. It was heavy, and it didn't feel right at all when you first felt it. But then a couple generations in, I can't go without it on a gaming controller. Even a PC with a keyboard mouse feels weird because I don't have haptics.
Yeah.
And we're going to see that same thing. I think haptics will be kind of, it'll inch towards the next step. That will get better long before we see full body suits, full body tracking, treadmills. All that stuff is in development. But it's all much less feasible than just good haptics could be right now.
Hell yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Fuck yeah, dude. I love the that's the thing that we always like hit on when we do guest episodes is I love the passion. That's the number one thing you can't replace when it comes to knowledge, I guess, because I could say, oh my God, you're so knowledgeable, Jay, but it's because of how passionate you are. That's like the thing that always rings true for me, and why when Theron introduced you and was like, hey, check this out, like I'm gonna go guest on it, hopefully we can get him over. as soon as I was listening to it, I was like, dude, this dude loves VR. He fucking, and I love VR by consequence. So yeah, man, I fucking love it. We're hitting the twilight hour of the main show, so I think we're about to roll into taps, and this is a perfect time to hand it over to Theron
for our very last segment. Jay, we've got one thing that we like to do here at the end of all of our podcast episodes. It's a little bit different, but it's a little segment that I like to call Theron's required readings. Super simple, just a really easy question. If our audience was only ever going to pick up one book and read that book, what should it be and why? Doesn't even have to be about VR or anything we've talked about today.
You know, I wanted to make a joke, and then I'm like, that might be offensive.
the Oculus.
Obviously, the Bible. No.
Yeah. We've had that answer before.
Yep,
Yeah,
answered
many
ironically
people
and
do.
joking and on. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, I've been racking my brain about this and trying to think, like, what was that pivotal book of my life? I could say the cliche answer and say Ready Player One, but to be honest, I had a hard time getting into that book.
Yeah.
It was
I've
like,
never read it. Isn't it one of those create your own or whatever? What's it called?
no, it's so if you saw the movie or if you've heard of the movie, it's what that movie was based on, was this book about this dystopian future where everyone uses VR to escape their real life. And
Yeah.
and for a lot of VR creators, it's kind of like their Bible in a way. And so I feel like I'm kind of outing myself here, being like, I don't really feel like this was it.
It wasn't that good of a book, guys. I'm just saying.
Everyone's gonna be like, how could you? This is blasphemy.
Traitor. Heresy.
So if it's not that one, Jay, then is it really the Bible? It's fine
No.
if it is.
Yeah.
Oh God, I hope my mom doesn't hear this episode.
Oh, I feel you.
There was nothing funny in his drinks earlier, Mom. Don't worry about it.
We swear. It was.
I'm not sharing this episode with my mom for many reasons.
We did throw fuck around a lot.
Yeah, we don't get. We're not really family friendly. We're not. Nobody takes us home to meet the parents very often.
Isn't that in our trailer too? Is like they're not necessarily clean per se. Oh fuck! I'm still waiting on it, Jay. I'm still waiting on it. I know you were sitting there. You're like, God damn it! I gotta really actually think.
We're gonna have
about
to
this
edit
for a
in the
second."
Jeopardy music,
right?
I know, and I feel like this is one of those things that, like, you're supposed to have a really good answer, and I just don't.
No, this is
have
why
one
we
that's
ask.
like-
It's we have this silly podcast where we just get drunk and are nonsensical the entire time, and then we hit you with a serious, deep philosophical question right at the end.
It's not even. It's almost like the worst change of pace for guests sometimes. And I just like the intro. I just like to see the guests squirm a little bit. I just want to see what they're gonna do. It's not how you answer, or it's not what you answer. It's how you answer. Fuck! I even fucked up the quote. Fuck me.
You can just give the ultimate cop-out answer. It's whatever book's closest to you.
Yeah.
You should read what book you have.
That's why I thought he was gonna be like the Oculus user manual, and page 7 was particularly helpful to me when setting up the internet connection. No, if you don't have one, Jay, like I think we've had comic books thrown out there. We've had what did that guy?
I don't want to be cliche, but the one that keeps coming to my mind is 1984. I feel like that's a
Why is that
fantastic
cliche?
one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
why is that?
because I feel like that's like
Uh,
I feel like it's everybody's go-to. 'Cause
that's
it's
one of
like,
my
you know, this-
that's one of my
this-
favorites.
Yeah, but it's like this ultimate dystopian.
It's important in today's day and age to read that book if you haven't.
I don't know. I think
While you
Anthem
still
is
can.
pretty dystopian too.
Right.
Anthem.
Like some Anne Grant, you know.
Oh, I mean, honestly, all of-
Fahrenheit 451,
Yeah,
George Orwell.
Yeah, I was gonna say anything Orwell is pretty much like he was going through some shit at the time.
Yeah.
He had some stuff to say about government. Hey, 1984. We'll put a bow on that one with you,
I
Jay.
like it. I
That's
like
that's
it.
Well, take
perfectly
it.
fine with
I
us.
like it because that's one I don't have to add to the list. I've read that one already. So
Yeah.
What's
The
the
list is already
weirdest
large
one?
enough.
What's the weirdest one you have to read that you're like putting off now?
We've had a couple of authors on who, of course, recommended their own book. And
No.
it's like, I'm sure, that you are a great guy and you seem like a fantastic
Or gal.
writer.
Or gal.
Or gal, or non-binary person. But I like the way that you were selling me on the world didn't get me hooked. And so I'm not, if talking to the author personally didn't do it for me, uh-oh.
We're not even in taps right now. They're all gonna hear this there.
It's okay. See, sometimes we get those angry emails too, Jay.
You know what? When I was a manager at Starbucks, what happened? Howard Schultz wrote that book, and then he issued a copy to every person in the company.
Oh god.
When he launched it, bought it all through Starbucks. So like instant #1 top seller when you send it to like millions of employees all at the same time.
And sell it with your own profits or buy it with your own profits.
Yep, didn't read it. I got that copy and I was like, really?
Man, now I'm sad that wasn't your book recommendation.
Right? That should have been it. Yeah.
Throw that out there. I haven't read it, but I have this one here. We're gonna give it away on this podcast episode.
It's like fruitcake. You just keep passing it to the next person. It's like 25-year-old fruitcake and nobody's touched it.
Hey, do you want this book or should we double it and give it to the next person?
Oh my god, this has been a blast, Jay. Again, we say the required readings is the final segment, but I always like to hijack that and say the actual final segment is gratitude, because you didn't have to give us your time, you didn't have to hang out with us, you didn't have to laugh and have, you know, make me laugh and enjoy this. So you did, and I appreciate it. So again, it always ends on gratitude. I appreciate it. I love it. Go ahead and let the people know, you know, how do they do that for themselves? Maybe they want you on their podcast. Maybe they want to connect with your channel, your social media. How do they do all that? Where do they find it?
I mean, it's pretty straightforward. I think if you just search JayBratt, JayBratt, I think I pop up YouTube, Instagram, all the random places. The places that I'm terrible at, like TikTok, never post there. I really should. I know. But yeah, I've been doing this for a while. I just love it. I love VR. I love meeting people who love VR. And because of that, I feel like it's drawn in some people and they really have supported the channel and everything. So it's been an awesome 4 years. And I don't know, I don't know what's going to keep happening, but as long as VR is a thing, I'm going to be here loving it. And who knows, maybe we're totally wrong. Maybe technology is going to go a totally different direction. And I'm just going to be sitting here in my old VR headset, being that old man talking about how this, when I was a kid, this almost made it. This almost changed the world. I'll be like that guy who invented the Segway. That poor guy.
You'll be that arcade guy that's still there with his quarter bag of quarters.
Mall cops will still like it, you know?
Yeah. That's all that's left of that thing.
Oh yeah. I mean, again, I love it, Jay. You're always gonna have some audience and supporters from the guys over at the Scuttlebutt Podcast. So we love it. We appreciate it. And for the normies out there listening, for the non-Patreon, you should be, because we're about to roll into taps. But all of those links that and mentions that Jay just had are gonna be down there in the description. There's no excuse. I make it nice and easy. It's one click away. It says connect with Jay, and boom, it's right there. So let's go ahead and put a bow on this, boys. I don't know who said it last time. Morpheus, you're in studio. Who said it last time? Do you remember?
I've said it like 3 times.
All right. I guess Theron, you're up. Theseus might even have to come into the studio and scream it into the microphones.
Right? That'd be interesting. That would be his first words. Don't kill the messenger.